"I think you've made a mistake, dear. The staff entrance is through the service gate around the back. This gala is for people who can actually contribute to the charity, not for those looking for a free meal." The words were wrapped in a fake, sugary sweetness that felt like sandpaper. I was standing in the foyer of a sprawling, oceanfront estate in Malibu. The woman speaking was Tiffany, a socialite whose face was pulled so tight by plastic surgery she could barely blink. She was draped in vintage Chanel and diamonds that caught the light of the massive crystal chandeliers. I looked down at myself. I was wearing a simple, 5-year-old floral dress and a pair of sensible flats. My hair was tied back in a quick ponytail, and I wasn't wearing a drop of makeup. I had just come from a long day at the research lab, and honestly, I was exhausted. But to Tiffany, I wasn't a scientist. I was the help. I was a disturbance in her sea of silk and champagne. Before we begin, let us know where you're watching from in the comments below. We love seeing our global community stand up for the underdogs. This story is a wild ride with a twist that no one in that room saw coming. My name is Dr. Elena Vance. For 10 years, I've worked in silence, developing a patent for a clean energy source that just sold to a global conglomerate for more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes. But I've never cared for the spotlight. I prefer my lab coat to a gown, and my old Toyota to a limousine. The reason I was at this auction was personal. This mansion, known as the Azure Crown, had once belonged to my grandmother before it was lost in a hostile corporate takeover decades ago. Tonight, it was being auctioned off for a children's hospital charity. I wanted it back, not for the luxury, but for the history. But the moment I stepped inside, the atmosphere changed. It was as if my plainness was a contagious disease. People physically stepped away from me as I walked through the crowd. "Can I help you find the kitchen?" a waiter asked, looking at me with a mixture of pity and confusion. "No, I'm here for the auction," I said, reaching for a glass of water. Tiffany, who had been watching me from across the room, glided over again, this time with a group of her friends. They all looked like they were part of a coordinated effort to look as expensive as possible. "The auction," Tiffany laughed, a sound like glass breaking. "Oh, darling. The opening bid for the Azure Crown starts at $5 million. I'm not sure your credit card could even handle the price of the appetizers you're currently eyeing. Maybe there's a garage sale in the valley you'd be more comfortable at." Her friends joined in, their laughter echoing off the high ceilings. I just smiled. "Wealth isn't always about what you're wearing, Tiffany. Sometimes it's about what you're capable of." "What you're capable of? Please," she sneered. "The only thing you're capable of is making this room look less exclusive. Mr. Sterling," she called out to the auctioneer, a man with a sharp suit and an even sharper ego. "We have a gatecrasher who needs to be escorted to the service exit." Mr. Sterling marched over, adjusting his silk tie. He looked at me for exactly 1 second before deciding I wasn't worth his time. "Ma'am, if you don't have a VIP invitation, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. This is an elite event. We can't have unverified individuals wandering around the artwork." "I have an invitation," I said, reaching into my bag. "I'm sure it's a fake," Tiffany interrupted. "Probably something she found in the trash. Look at her shoes, Sterling. Do those look like the shoes of someone who belongs in Malibu?" Mr. Sterling didn't even wait for me to pull out the card. He signaled to large security guards, "Please escort this woman out, and make sure she doesn't take any souvenirs with her on the way." The guards stepped toward me. The room went quiet as everyone turned to watch the poor woman being kicked out. I felt the heat of humiliation, but I didn't move. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," I said, my voice dead calm. "Oh, and why is that?" Sterling asked, his hand on his hip. "Are you going to tell me your father owns the building, or that you're a secret princess?" "No," I said, as the back doors of the ballroom opened and a man in a navy suit hurried in. It was the CEO of the children's hospital, the man for whom this entire night was being held. "Wait, stop," the CEO shouted, his face red with exertion. He pushed past the security guards and walked straight to me. "Dr. Vance, I am so sorry. I was tied up in a meeting. I had no idea you'd arrived already." The room went so silent you could hear the waves crashing on the shore outside. Tiffany's champagne glass stayed frozen halfway to her mouth. Mr. Sterling looked like he had just swallowed a fly. You know this woman," Sterling stammered. "Know her," the CEO said, looking at the crowd with pure disbelief. "Dr. Elena Vance is the benefactor who donated this entire estate to the hospital in the first place. She's the person who provided the $10 million endowment for our new pediatric wing." He turned to me, his voice full of respect. "Elena, why aren't you in the VIP section? And why aren't you wearing the donor medal we sent you?" "I didn't come here for a medal," I said, looking directly at Tiffany, whose face was now a pale, sickly shade of yellow. "I came to see if the Azure Crown would find a worthy owner. But after hearing Tiffany talk about people who don't belong, I've changed my mind." I turned back to Mr. Sterling. "You said the opening bid was $5 million?" "Why, yes, ma'am," he whispered, his hands shaking so hard he dropped his gavel. "I'll bid $15 million, I said, my voice echoing through the hall. "On one condition. I want Tiffany and her exclusive friends escorted out immediately. Their presence is making my house look cheap." The irony was delicious. The security guards, who had just been about to remove me, turned toward Tiffany. "You can't do this," Tiffany screamed, her voice shrill and desperate. "I'm a diamond member of this charity. My husband is a senator." "Your husband's term ends this year, Tiffany," I said quietly. "And as for your diamond membership, I've just purchased the management company that runs this gala. Your membership is revoked for conduct unbecoming of a guest." The crowd watched in a mixture of shock and awe as Tiffany and her group were led out of the mansion, their expensive heels clicking on the marble floor for the very last time. Mr. Sterling tried to apologize, but I simply held up a hand. "You're fired, Sterling. I'll be hiring an auctioneer who knows that a person's value isn't measured by the brand of their shoes." I bought the house back that night, but I didn't live in it. I turned it into a state-of-the-art recovery center for the Children's Hospital. Now, when I walk through those halls in my old floral dress, no one tells me to use the staff entrance. They just see a woman who knows that true wealth isn't what you carry, it's what you leave behind. You know, there's a dangerous trend among those who think money is a shield. They think that by dressing in gold, they can hide the rust in their own souls. They look at a tired mother or a plain-looking woman and decide she's invisible, never realizing that she might be the very ground they're standing on. Tiffany thought she was the queen of Malibu, but she was really just a prisoner of her own ego. She was so busy looking for VIPs that she completely missed the most important person in the room. But I want to hear from you. Have you ever been underestimated because you weren't dressed the part, or have you ever seen a queen bee get the ultimate reality check? Share your stories in the comments below. We read every single one, and we love celebrating the moments where respect wins over status. If you believe that a person's character is more valuable than their bank account, hit that like button and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching. Stay humble, stay kind, and remember, the most powerful person in the room is often the one you'd never expect.